Have you ever dreamed about one day being in a faraway land where the grass is green and the cows are fat, and of course, you walk around everywhere you go with those 4 little letters following your name, CASA. Yes, we all know about the grass and maybe how it might not be greener on the other side, but sometimes it is green. We're always talking about the grass though, the greener pastures, but we seldom talk about the pilgrimage, the journey to that foreign country and the many struggles involved. In this episode, we go through some of those struggles that fellow travelers and aspiring CAs go through, particularly our foreign student travelers. We have fellow accounting student at UCT, Adele Mamba, share her story so far on the road and her experiences as a foreign student hailing all the way from Swaziland, coming down to the University of Cape Town. We also chat about the 4 majors of chartered accountancy, the power of creativity in accounting, how we can use accounting skills to make a positive impact, and more. I hope you enjoy. My travelers on the road. Happy Women's Month! Today is going to be, before the episode, another one of those little nyana history lessons. Sorry if you don't enjoy it, but I do. So, the history of this holiday is actually quite interesting. It was 9 August 1956, when more than 20,000 South African women of all races, it was crazy, staged a march on the Union buildings in protest against a proposed amendment, particularly the Urban Areas Act. So it was actually against the Dompas, basically. And these past laws were something that women just wouldn't take. And so they staged a protest, march against it. And very interestingly, during that protest, the woman stood silently for 30 minutes and then started singing a protest song that was composed in honor of the occasion and would live decades and decades on. A famous line from this song was, "Watint abafazi, watint imbogodo," which means, now you have touched the woman, you have touched a rock. So that's the history behind National Women's Day. That's the reason why we commemorate women. But even more than that, I saw the trend of what this sparked. It was in 1956 that the women marched against these laws, which then inspired as well further the 1960 unfortunate tragedy, but so valiant it was, of the Sharpeville massacre. And then later on, a few decades, it was 86, the laws were abolished. But it was just so interesting to see the seed that became our liberation. And that's now our freedom. So I hope you guys know why we do it. There is a reason. It's not just because, women are in power or whatever. It's actually because women did something great. The women did something pivotal, foundational. So, actually, this month, it's going to be Women's Month episodes only. It'll be women only. I'm going to be interviewing women. You're going to be seeing those episodes that I had with our lady aspiring chartered accountants. And I hope that you enjoy this, man. It's going to be a great month. With that, on to the episode. Welcome back, my people. This is the Road to CA podcast, the show for aspiring chartered accountants to inform you, inspire you, and empower the difference makers of tomorrow. Today, we're joined by another aspiring CA, an Allen Gray candidate fellow, might I add. Her alma mater is St. Mark High School in Eswatini. Yes, she is from the land of Amaswazi. Today, she's also an artist. In fact, a double threat, a painter and a poet. And she won the Res for Res 2023 art exhibition. So I think I'm very interested in actually going into your background as an artiste. She is a third year accounting student, financial accounting student at the University of Cape Town. She's a sister. She's a lifelong learner. She is the bubbliest, most interesting introvert I've ever met. It's very interesting that you said you're an introvert in your pre-information. We're joined by Adele Mamba. Adele, how are you?
I'm fine. How are you, Alunga?
I'm excited to talk with you because you're immediately when we had our first conversation, I learned that you are a curious person. And even in your diction, when we were talking, you spoke of finding the answers as you're going along the journey, which I think is everything that this podcast is trying to do. It's trying to find the answers. So I'm excited, man. I hope you are.
I'm excited. I'm
Mm,
excited.
mm,
And
mm,
this will be fun.
mm.
This will be fun. It's quite
Yes.
the adventure, you know. Never been
Mm.
on a podcast, but this is quite the experience. And
Yeah.
yeah, I'm just glad I'm here to join you today, this morning.
The first of many, Adele. The first of many, because I think podcast is going to be every day. And it's a medium that we can showcase, for an example, amazing stories and perspectives such as yours. So let's get started. Let's get started. Take us back.
Okay.
Take us back to when this whole chartered accounting thing started and why you started it.
Well, I'd say it started, I suppose, in like 2017. I was doing Form 2, which is called grade 9. And I had just happened to be like the highest in the class in accounting.
Mm,
And I just talked to my teacher, Mr. Gamma, and we're just talking about like accounting. I think he had just started doing his BCom accounting science at Fitz, if I'm not mistaken. And I was like, okay, what is accounting science? And he actually told me a lot of things that I didn't understand. He talked about auditing, like all the four majors, and
mm,
genuinely, I didn't understand what it was. I felt like, okay, I get it. There's a lot going on, but hopefully we'll get there and just understand. Because I felt like bookkeeping, which was what most accounting students in high school think is accounting, but it's just yeah, it's the tip of the iceberg, and
yeah.
I felt like there was just more to explore. There, I didn't have enough to say, okay, I know accounting. I just felt like there were a lot of gaps. Like I didn't understand why we're debiting, why we're crediting, but I could do it. It's more of
Mm,
like it was more of a process type thing where you could just remember, like do questions because we did a lot of past papers at my school. So you just do questions,
mm,
memorize how it's done, and then apply it. And then
mm,
my teacher would just happen to add extra information. He was just that guy. He'd just say a lot because he was doing the course, right? So as I was like in Form 2, he was doing his first year in the BCom accounting. So he started with us. He was just more of like he was studying through us. But it's more of like when I talked to him, he told me that okay, I have the potential to go higher and actually reach the top. We even talked
mm,
about like the board that decides on the standards, the IFRS standards. He told me about that. He was like, if you can go further, be a chartered accountant, and then end up in that board. We even talked about like the World Bank at some point, and I was like, I could actually go there if I do CA. And I was like,
wow.
okay, no, and I do CA because wow, there's a lot to explore. And I just liked the fact that he said we should just keep on pushing and like really applying ourselves to the schoolwork and then just pass. And he always said the view from the top is always amazing.
Mm,
Really, he always said that. He was like, no, we should keep pushing because once we reach
mm,
the top, honestly, the obstacles down there won't even matter. Whatever was happening in the valley doesn't matter because you're gonna be at the top, seeing everything. So it was more of like that, just having a conversation with my teacher who was doing accounting science, and I was just so proud of him when he finished, because when he finished, I was like finishing high school in a sense. So it was more of like, you can do this, Adele. I'm sure you can do it. If he could do it, then I could do it. And I was like, okay, I'm gonna do it because my teacher did it. And
Mm.
that's how it started. And accounting was always just so easy, I suppose. And I suppose when I applied for accounting, I was like, I'm good at accounting. So I might as well just apply for it. And yeah, I did. And I just loved how accounting was, I always said it's me, like it's who I am, because it's really guided by principles. Okay, I know it's kind of limiting to just tie yourself down to one perspective. I think I'm starting to work through that now, to just not be tied down to one particular trait. But like back then, it was always like, okay, accounting is just me, in the sense that it's embodied by principles, their guidelines. It's a very kind of disciplined career, or
Mm.
maybe subject. You can't just
Mm.
be doing things haphazardly. You must follow a certain protocol or certain standard. And I was just
Mm.
like, yeah, this is me. It aligns with who I am. I'm always just straight, never taking a lot of things. We're not fiddling here. We're just going with the straight line. If it doesn't work, it means I'm not the problem. Obviously, it's the person who's doing something that doesn't make sense. It was like that. Because if a balance sheet didn't balance, obviously, you're the one who didn't calculate the correct
Yeah.
thing.
Mm.
It was that type of thing. So, yeah, it was that kind of thing. But then the more, we explore accounting, the more we just continue with the journey, you realize that there are different aspects to it. I mean, there's financial accounting, which is also called financial reporting. And then there's management accounting, which is costing. And there's auditing, there's taxation. I would say taxation and financial reporting follow a very rigid sense of approach, because
Mm.
you can not work without the legislation and the standards. But with like, so it doesn't really give you room to think. You're always in a box. You're always in a straight line. Essentially, you can't maneuver. So it's more of it's very solid. It
Mm.
doesn't give you to think. You can't think. You just have to think using what other people have already decided upon, which is it's subjective. I wouldn't necessarily say it's a nice thing. It's a very
Mm.
interesting. I mean, other people love it so much, but like I feel like if maybe people would explore management accounting a bit more, because that is one module in accounting that just really tests you as an individual, to say like, how can you really apply yourself, like how can you just think,
Mm.
think
Mm.
different. You're given the tools, but you should figure out how to maybe build a train. You don't have the
Mm.
manual, but you have to figure it out. And if you figured it out and it works properly, then it's correct. There's no way it
Mm.
won't work out. That's like management accounting for me. It's just a lot logic. It really drives a sense of enthusiasm, and a lot of, you get so interested in accounting, like you can think outside the box. You're not in a
Mm.
box. Then
Mm.
as for auditing is more of like it's that supervisor, that you have. It's just checking if you know what you're doing. That's all. It's just checking. But yeah, I think all in all, it all started with like my teacher.
Mm.
Really don't give much credit to teachers, but Mr. Kaba really inspired me to pursue accounting, because he really had a passion for kids and teaching, and essentially for accounting. When a teacher is passionate about the subject, and they're not just doing their job because they just want to feed their family and all that, they
Mm.
actually want to teach your life, and they're actually concerned about like all the other maybe subjects that you're doing. Because I feel like people who, okay, anyone who was taught by Mr. Kama would tell you that he really was concerned about like how you're doing in like your other subjects, maybe your English, your maths, your Siswati, your literature, and all that. He didn't want you to just focus on accounting. He also wanted you to establish a sense of balance. But in the sense, in that way, he also kind of he just used accounting as a medium to change our lives as a whole, I suppose. But yeah, that's just it, really. That's just it.
Del, I can, I saw that you aspire to also publish a book, and I was really pleased to see that. I think everyone who becomes valuable should publish a book, because that's the way that you can cement and and also live on, so that other people can leverage off of your value and your mistakes. I call it becoming a lost leader. And it's great that I can hear you've written about things. Your vocabulary is vast, and your ideas also. I think you've probably already gone back and seen, oh, it was Mr. Kama. Oh, have you gone back before this conversation?
Wow. Funny that you mentioned that, eh?
Mm.
And the Lost Leader, I actually listened to that podcast
Oh,
and it
okay.
was quite interesting. Um, well, I did at some point. I felt like at some point in high school, I just started writing about the journey, you know.
Mm.
When I started high school, I had like a chapter one, which was called, it was chapter one because that was
Uh-huh.
my first grade, like grade eight, which is form
Mm.
one. Yeah. I wrote about that. Like I wrote about all the chapters until like I did my A levels. So there were six chapters in a sense, and all I elaborated on all of that. I had a manuscript and I don't know where it is. But yeah, I did kind of reflect upon everything at some point as I was going through everything. I think every December I would just sit down and write about what was happening the entire year, but like tell it in a narrative form of thing.
Mm.
And yeah, I really don't know where that manuscript is. I have to check it at home because it was handwritten. And
Uh-huh.
I think at some point I typed it. Uh, yeah, I typed it. So
Oh,
I
okay.
don't know where it is. But yeah,
You'll
I
find it.
did. And I just hope, hopefully I find it or I'll just start afresh. Doesn't
Yeah,
matter.
yeah.
But yeah, it really is kind of cool in a sense to see that maybe if I were to write something, it might inspire someone
Mm.
and really drive them to do accounting maybe, but like maybe pursue their dreams and know that it is possible. It is possible, regardless of the circumstances.
Mm.
You can achieve what you want to achieve. And as well, just listen to your teachers. Like, guys, listen to your teachers. They might have really valuable information and that can really get you very far, you know, because they've been through this journey called life and they've seen a lot of things. They might have networks and people that you don't
Mm.
know how they can help you, but like they'll help you somehow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yo, that's true. Teachers have networks. I think we also, I guess, like, I don't want to become a teacher, so why would I chat to my teacher? Because everyone's all obsessed about talking to the person who's X steps ahead of you. But the teacher, and I even wanted to actually just go back to Mr. Gama, right? The teacher, that can just be someone's medium to realize what, I think actually all professions are just mediums of realizing what's always been there. And I think everyone comes out perfect, but it's a matter of taking that and channeling it through a profession, through a craft. And I see accounting being that for a lot of people. We come in very general. We come in sort of just open to business. I just want to get into business. I know that a numbers guy is always required to be in business. So accounting is a good bet on my path. But there's something in that, even in that topic of business, what is it that you are going to be in the business of? What is it? What is the passion that you are going to bring to the profession? Because I think the highest leverage thing that we can do as aspiring CAs is lean into our strengths, our passions and inclinations, because that's the way we're most effective. If you know in your heart you want to start this business, or you want to, teach, like Mr. Kama. I think Mr. Kama, what do you think his passion was?
Well,
Uh,
he mentioned he wanted to be like a soccer player, so that's like the last thing I remember. He told me he wanted to be that. He
mm,
wanted to be a soccer player. And then, but like his dad was like, no, he has to like find something that will sustain him for life.
mm, mm,
So yeah, he ended up doing accounting. And somehow he ended up being a teacher while
mm,
maybe working towards something in accounting.
mm,
Something maybe he didn't want to like go to corporate very early, but somehow he wanted to be around people. So students were like a better alternative to rather teaching. I think he couldn't teach in varsity, so he taught in high school. So I
mm,
don't know what happened along those lines. I'm not quite
mm,
sure.
mm,
Quite sure.
mm. Yo, but Mr. Kama is an interesting guy. Your story, it's already, they're even learning from the people in your story. That's the thing about writing. Like, now I'm learning because when you said maybe teaching was as medium, that's what clicked for me. Everything that we do is a medium. Like, even just our existence, we're all just trying to cope with the human condition. Like, we're all just trying to cope. Our pursuit of success is just trying to cope, I think, with our finite time. I think subconsciously we want to be successful, we want to be rich, we want to, pursue careers, because we all know that we're gonna die one day. I'm getting a bit too hectic. I'm gonna be a bit too deep. But
Yeah,
Adele,
you're going deep right now. You're going deep, but like I
yeah,
think maybe with everything we do, we're
mm,
just striving to be content. Because in
mm,
all things that we do as human beings, we can never be content. That's why we have
mm,
wants that are like an ending, but our needs are
mm,
very limited. So
mm,
we try to find something that might bring us closer to being fulfilled.
mm,
If let's say you aspired to be a CA, but like as you progress or take the journey towards CA, you realize that maybe back home, I could just perhaps start a kindergarten or maybe have a learning center where I help people upskill,
mm,
financial literacy skills and just teach people how to have maybe what do they call them, stockfels, and teach them how
mm,
they can work around that. And as well as this, Africa is very rich. Its soil is it's a gold, it's our gold.
mm,
So you can teach
mm,
people how to maybe tap into agriculture more and use those accounting skills to help them manage their finances so that it doesn't appear that they're making money, even though they're making a loss. So you just help people with your knowledge, That's like impacting people. Or you could just I don't know how you could use accounting more, but it's not really tied down to just working a 9 to 5 job. Well,
mm.
accounting is a 9 to 5. SCA, maybe it's a
Yeah.
9 to 9.
Yeah.
So it's not tied down to that. It's
Mm,
more of at the end of the day, what you do for others. And I
mm,
think that's how we become content because that's how happiness is. People say make yourself happy, but I don't know why it's always tied down to other people because you can't be happy
mm,
without doing something good for someone else. So it always has been about doing something for someone else to make
mm,
yourself feel fulfilled. Really,
mm.
it's always been like that.
Yeah, man. I think, yeah, more and more, even as we know, we're young professionals, or young aspiring professionals pursuing our career, my career, my life, I'm just realizing, it can't just be about me. And it just, yeah, it's not fulfilling. For me, it's just like, it's just not fulfilling. Yeah, I could do it all for myself, and obviously I would gain a lot, but there's something like deep that just won't work. And I actually want to circle back to that point that you made of you like accounting being like that thing that can help everyone, maybe in agriculture, maybe in just financial literacy, starting even like kindergarten. Like it's such a great thing to be able to channel whatever it is you want, because the numbers don't lie. I was talking to my brother the other day, and no matter where you are, basically what accountants can do, what they have the capacity for, is to bring us all back to the facts. Numbers are not subjective. As you said, you mentioned in the beginning how there's a science to it. There's a right, there's a wrong, there's a straight, there's a discipline, and numbers don't lie. Therefore, if you're the guy who says, whoa, 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 guys, I know there's opportunities everywhere. Just look at the numbers. Look at this capital project versus that capital project. Look at them on the return basis. What's the return that this one's going to get? What's the return that this one's going to get? And that is a much better place, much more factual place that people can make decisions. And therefore, we all make better, more informed, fact-based decisions. And that's the space that you occupy as an accountant. You get me?
I understand, and you're right. It's definitely bringing people to reality in a sense.
Yeah. Adele, you are a
Yes,
foreign
Olga.
student, right? You're a foreign student now studying in South Africa. And I wanted to draw attention to this because I think that even as, like, in a class, there's 300 of you. There's so many people, you've talked to 3 of them. That's how we tend to do it in these classes in varsity. We don't know that there's people from another country that have struggles because of that very instance. Like I know that some programs don't accept you because of the fact that you're not a native of the country. Can you just talk to me and everyone about some of the struggles that you've experienced as a foreign student, to just show some light on what is it to be a foreign student in South Africa studying CA?
Well, it all starts with getting accepted into
Mm-hmm.
these universities in South Africa. It's very tough. There are a lot of processes. I think most of the time we have to like do matric because our certificates that we get from our countries are not really scaled properly to the level that is required by the matriculation exemption board. So we have to like do matric or we have to do A levels, and that requires a lot of money. It's a very expensive program because it's a Cambridge type of course if you do A levels. So it's very expensive. And well, after doing that, you still need to get your results processed by the exemption board. So that's an extra fee. It's around 700, 800. Mind you, you haven't actually even started applying. That's just the first part of it. And then you have to apply. Obviously, that's an extra fee. And then whilst you're doing that, you still need to pay for like medical aid. Yeah, that's like the first part of it when you're just doing the study visa and all that. And when you're applying for residence, of course, student housing always has complications. And as foreign students, we struggle because we don't really have relatives, some of us, and we don't really know a lot of people here in SA. So it's really, it complicates a lot of things if we find that we don't have a place address because we need the place address. And if they're full, then it's, might find yourself maybe at the library, I suppose, but it has never happened. But it is a possibility. So yeah, race is very important, and it's usually the problem at the beginning, accommodation is usually our biggest struggle. And finances, of course. Okay, but like finances always, you can always balance it out because your parents have to have money if you're gonna come to South Africa. There's a requirement by the South African Commission when you're making your study visa that you have to have at least maybe 10K, if I'm not mistaken, in your bank account. Your parents are supposed to have at least 10 to 20K in their bank account. And half of the time, it's very tough to have that kind of money because you're spending a lot already just to
Yeah.
come here, and you have to spend extra to have maybe so it's sort of like a cushion. Your parents just have to have a cushion for a safe landing in case you fail and stuff like that. And then whilst you're here, maybe learning, adapting is an issue, but nonetheless, if you're a public person, you can always just fit in. But if
Like a
you're
bubbly
curious,
introvert like you.
ah, I've learned how to communicate over time. But like I'm
Uh,
really introverted. But like,
uh,
yeah, if you come here and you're from a different country and you know no one,
mm,
let's just say you don't
mm,
know anybody and you just don't know how to talk to people or you're just
mm.
quiet. You have to figure things out yourself and you learn the hard way. Like it's a struggle because everybody's minding
Mm.
their own business at varsity. So you will struggle
Yeah,
a lot.
yeah,
You will
yeah.
struggle like doing things on your own. But eventually you have like set up and then you'll be fine. You get settled. And then maybe applying for jobs. Okay, that's another thing. Getting a job is another
Yeah.
very
Sure.
difficult thing because you need a work permit. And maybe let's just bring it down to CA. We need articles, right? 3 years. And
Mm.
most firms really do shy away from kind of employing foreign students. Okay, Namibia is lucky because they have like Deloitte in Namibia. I think the last time I checked, so they're a bit maybe they can maneuver a bit. But let's just say in general, all foreign students, it's very tough because firms really don't want to be with you in that process of getting your work permit. There's a lot of documentation required and it takes a bit of time. And because of that, they're opting for South African citizens quite a lot because it's a bit tricky. So it's like 1 out of 50 foreign students get selected to kind of
Yeah.
have their articles in South Africa, and then the rest will have to like find jobs back home. And that is really not what something you'd want to do because there's a reason why you actually chose to come to South Africa because you're
Yeah.
hoping maybe you're gonna get a job in South Africa.
Mm.
But yeah, it's that's the reality. And
Sure.
yeah.
Yeah, and it's cutthroat, like 1 in 15. That is an interesting, for me, red pill because the foreign students, like I have some foreign student friends, right? I don't know particularly if they intend to study in South Africa to finish their articles here. I'm sure some do, but those are the odds that they that are stacked against them. 1 in 15. So there's a 14 and 15 chance that, it's time to pack your bags and go home, go back home. Like that's hectic. And I think on the issue of the foreign student problem, my problem with it is that if you are in accounting, it means that, Adele, you are not, one, illegally in the country. Two, you are very competent. So an Adele Mamba being employed here is a skilled worker. And we have this thing called the brain drain, where a lot of us, CA students, they're like, I think I'm gonna go to UK. I'm thinking about going to the US. We all want to leave, and now the skilled foreign students, they have to jump through crazy hurdles, and they can't stay. It's like we're chasing away all the talent and all the skills, which is for me a problem. I don't know. It's a tough one, eh? It's a tough one.
Yeah, it's very tough. It's very tough. But I think it's more of a your the unemployment rate in South Africa is very high. So
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think the government is really doing their best. They're trying their best to just accommodate everybody. You know, you should take first priority as South African citizens, and then other people can then be accommodated. So it would be unfair to you guys if maybe other people took priority, because you are also struggling. I mean, even
True.
doctors are unemployed these days.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like the government trying to sort this issue of unemployment out. So in a sense, it is understandable if you think about it, but it's a bit unfair to the parties affected. But
True.
it's okay.
It's such a complex issue, such a finicky one. Let's go deeper down the struggles path. I'm sorry to be going down this difficult road but this is the road to CA, so it's tough.
It's
You
okay.
you experienced something really tough back in first year, and it was not your choice. It was not your doing. It was a matter of circumstance. Can you walk me through that really tough time so that aspiring CAs can also get through similar instances back when you came to UCT all the way from Swaziland?
Okay. Maybe I should just start from the beginning and
Okay,
how
let's
it
start from the
actually
beginning.
happened. Well, at the beginning of 2022, I wasn't aware that my mom.
To be continued in part 2. See you next week.